What you're about to hear isn't just another heated exchange in Congress. This is Jasmine Crockett methodically peeling back the layers and exposing something that should alarm every American. She's about to lay out, point by point, why the Republican Party's stance on Russia and Ukraine is raising serious, undeniable questions about where their loyalty truly lies. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. It's so interesting to me that we all swear an oath to the Constitution, and we say that we take that oath seriously, but when it comes into actually doing something that looks like preserving that oath or looks like preserving the Constitution, we get a little wobbly, and I'm not really understanding what's going on. Freedom of press doesn't look like kicking out the Washington Post, or actually the Huffington Post has been kicked out. We know that the Associated Press has been kicked out, and now the Washington Post is not going to allow for op-eds in any way if for some reason they criticize the sitting president of the United States. What this is starting to feel like is a smaller version of Russia. And I am trying to tell you that we are nothing like Russia. We are not supposed to be like Russia, but that is what we've got going on. And I'm sorry, I know that some of my colleagues still struggle with answering the question of who won the election in 2020. And you may have felt a way when you had social media checking people and saying, no, Trump did not win the election in 2020. That is absolutely factual. And unfortunately, because some people got all riled up because they believed the lies, they ended up getting locked up because they decided that they were going to believe the lies. They ended up at the Capitol on January 6th, and they were trying to tear this thing apart because they felt like their country was falling apart in front of their eyes because for whatever reason, there were people in power that were peddling a lie about the election. We also know, and some of y'all may still say that COVID was a hoax. COVID wasn't a hoax. Tell that to the over 1 million people that died under Donald Trump's first watch. It wasn't a hoax. So no, I do believe that it was okay. In fact, I do believe that it was ethically right for social media to check people because you had people that didn't know anything about science and decided that they were going to put out whatever lies or propaganda or conspiracy theories they wanted to, and people died. At some point in time, we have to evaluate what is factual, and I know that facts hurt y'all, and I just wish we could get on the same page, but we do know during the presidential election that the president would not go and participate in anything if fact-checking was going to be a part of it, because he didn't want to be fact-checked. We know that the vice president got upset in his vice presidential debate when he was fact-checked. It used to be a time in this country that we as members of Congress or elected officials thought that it was okay to just tell the truth. Instead, we're pushing conspiracy theories, and some of them are killing people. It's the same thing that we have coming out of Doge. It's the reason that people are dying. It's the reason that farmers are losing their farms, because we continue to peddle conspiracy theories. It is time for us to say, Mr. President, guess what? Russia invaded Ukraine. Can we at least agree on that one? Facts matter. Y'all, this is literally potentially putting us into an international crisis. We may be heading towards the next world war because we have a president that wants to pal around with Putin and wants to do everything to make him feel good, including lying about who invaded who. Mr. Chair, I got a minute left, but I really want to yield to any of my colleagues and ask them if they will say today, very basically, that when it came down to the war in Ukraine, that it was not Ukraine that invaded Russia, it was the other way around. Is there anybody in here that has enough courage to say that Russia invaded Ukraine?
You can have my time.
And this is yet the problem. This is the problem. That is not infringing upon free speech.
Will the gentlelady yield?
I will yield to the right.
Thank you, Ms. Crockett. To be clear, your challenge, I think, was across the aisle, because I think every member on your side of the aisle agrees with the obvious fact that Vladimir Putin ordered the filthy, bloody, imperialistic invasion of Ukraine. And in fact, at the time, Donald Trump as president never denied it. In fact, he praised it. He said it was, quote, an act of genius when Putin ordered the invasion of Ukraine. So I would hope some of our colleagues would consent to at least that historical point, since we think history is so important. There are people who want to relive that in our oversight report.
And therein lies the problem.
The time of the general.
Here's the part that should make every American stop and think. Jasmine Crockett didn't just make accusations. She put a simple, undeniable question on the table. She asked her Republican colleagues to do one thing: publicly acknowledge the most basic fact about the war in Ukraine, that Russia invaded Ukraine. That's it. No complicated foreign policy lecture, no trick question. Just a straightforward statement of reality. And what happened? Silence. Complete, deafening silence. Not one Republican member in that room had the courage to say it outright. There was a faint murmur from someone, but by all indications, it didn't even come from their side of the aisle. The rest? They sat there, mute. And that silence speaks volumes. Because here's the truth. Before Donald Trump entered the picture, many of these same GOP members were vocal supporters of Ukraine. They pushed for aid, they condemned Russian aggression, they championed democratic allies. But now we see a wholesale shift. A party that once stood firmly against the Kremlin's aggression is suddenly hesitant to even name it. And why? Because they're taking their cues from one man, and that man has spent years cozying up to Vladimir Putin. If Republicans really wanted to shut down Crockett's point, they could have done it in seconds. All it would take was a unified acknowledgement of the obvious. Putin invaded Ukraine, but they didn't. Not one of them was willing to stand up and say it if it meant crossing Trump. This isn't just political cowardice. It's a warning sign. It shows how deep the influence runs, how quickly principle is abandoned when loyalty to a figure outweighs loyalty to the truth. And watching it from the outside, it's hard to see it as anything but a political cult. A movement where elected officials, supposedly there to serve their constituents, instead follow their orange demigod wherever he points, even if it means rewriting reality itself. It's embarrassing. It's dangerous. And it should concern anyone who believes that facts still matter in American politics. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below this video, and I'll see you in the next video.